I learned a new word this week. The word is kinkajou. Do any of you know what a kinkajou is? Well, I looked it up, and it's an animal that habitat is in southern Mexico, in Central America, and in northern South America. It is a member of the raccoon family, has a very long tail with which it can hang from trees, but it has very sharp claws and very sharp teeth. Well, there was a woman in Florida who decided that it was too commonplace to have a dog, so she wanted to have a kinkajou. So they bought a baby one, and it was a cute little pet. But it grew up, and as it hit puberty, it became very wild and vicious. It was trying to destroy itself. It was trying to bite off its tail. It was scratching its body. And the family who loved the little pet were constantly trying to rescue it, but they were getting scratched and bitten all the time. You might say, well, why would they do that? Why would the family try to rescue that animal? I think the answer is very simple. This was a wild animal, and by its nature, as it matured, it became rather vicious. The family loved it. That was their nature. They loved the animal. And so they were willing to do anything to try to rescue it and change its behavior. We just read about how Jesus Christ suffered and died for us. It was his nature to be absolutely loving. And the cross was the greatest sign of love that the world has ever seen. Human beings were selfish, prideful, jealous, subject to all kinds of bad attitudes and behaviors that would lead us away from God and not toward God. But God still loved us. From the cross, he said, "Father, forgive them. They know not what they do," even as they tried to kill him. So many times I've been asked over the years, "Father, why did Jesus have to die on the cross? Why did he have to go through such a cruel death?" The only answer is that becoming man, Jesus made the decision to totally immerse himself in our human life. And he was willing to accept the consequences. It was a risk. Jesus, who could only love, was risking becoming so plunged into our human life, where he would be subject to the sinful things of men and women. And yet he was willing to do it because he loved us. And it was proven, certainly, by his death on the cross. They even shouted at him, as we read today, "If you saved others, save yourself, get off the cross." But he would not do that because he was living fully his human mission to live our human life and die our human death so that he might bring us eternal life, the greatest act of love the world's ever seen. And I think I can understand that, the story about the kinkajou. The family loved it, and they were willing even to accept the claws and scratches to save it. Jesus did so much more than that. Jesus was willing to give his life for us. And he still continues to give himself to us through the sacraments of his church. Tonight we receive the body and blood of Christ, which is food for the journey. We hear his word, especially the passion that he went through in dying on the cross. And we are inspired by that word to keep us going, so that in all of the sufferings of life, we can persevere like Jesus did. His death on the cross was to be a sign. Remember, Jesus told his apostles, there's no greater love than one who lays down his life for his friends. This was a sign that Jesus was laying down his life for his friends. And then another time, Jesus said that he commanded his followers to love one another as I have loved you. His love was demonstrated by his death on the cross. And so we see those signs and that revelation of love, and we're called to imitate it in our life too, that Christ's love may be shown through us. During Lent, we try to get rid of the things that make us less like Christ and do things that make us more like Christ. Hopefully we've made some progress. but there's still always another time God gives us. In this Holy Week coming forward, if we come to the services as best as we can, if we pray a little bit more this week, and just meditate on the wonders of the cross, it will draw us to Jesus in a new and deeper way, and we'll celebrate Easter more fully next Easter Sunday.